Welcome back to another episode of VHS Files presents the horror section. This podcast contains spoilers, adult content, and harsh language. Listener discretion is advised. Now your hosts, Josh and Jason. Enjoy the horror.
The space vampires are coming! The space vampires are coming!
I love it. They can stay where they need to be.
Some of them can.
Welcome back to the VHS Files Presents the Horror section. My name's Josh, and we're here with Jason, and Eric is joining us again. Hello, Eric.
Hello, it's good to be a special guest once again.
He's a recurring special guest. We pay him extra for multiple episodes.
I'm here more often than not, but I'm not in the intro. So
right.
As far as I'm not in the intro, I am a special guest.
There you go. You are special, Eric.
You are definitely special.
Considering I think he picked this special movie that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, just to give you a little bit of insight into our shenanigans here. With the horror section, it's typically, I have a text thread with Jason, Eric, and I, and we just kind of throw movies out there like, hey, we should do this. Hey, we should do that. Well, Eric came across today's movie that we're talking about, which is Tobe Hooper's Lifeforce.
They watched. They waited. Now their time has come. Out of the depths of space, the ultimate terror. Moving, searching, destroying. From body to body, from life to life, from man to woman. Changing, growing, burning for our life force.
And he's like, let's do this one. It looks good, which I had the movie on Blu-ray. Other than that, I think everybody else had a hell of a time getting hold of this thing. Without commercials, at least.
Yeah, I watched it on, what's that shit called?
Pluto.
On. Yes, I watched it on Pluto TV. Now, the running time of this movie on IMDb, at least, says an hour and 26 minutes. On Pluto, it's 2.5 hours.
Wow.
Because of commercials.
Well,
so I really went through it here to watch this thing. And I had never seen it before, I should say.
Yeah. I think I got the director's cut because my cut was over 2 hours.
Yeah, I think the one that I got, or the one that, well, I think I have both cuts on the Blu-ray, but I think the one I ended up watching had to have been the director's cut because it may not have been 2 hours, but it goddamn sure seemed like it was 2 hours long.
It was a 7-hour movie. It's the Snyder cut. It's the Hooper cut of this movie.
Dude, I honestly hope you guys hated this movie because you dragged me through one crazy summer recently, and that was rough.
One Crazy Summer is Oscar quality acting compared to...
That is The Godfather compared to this one. Let's just get into it. Okay. Directed by Tobe Hooper. He had previously come off the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Funhouse, and then Poltergeist, which, Steven Spielberg directed that, but his name's on it.
Yeah, he probably did some of it. He did something.
Just a little bit.
He was like, I had a chair with my name on it, and I sat there.
It said director.
It said director, but Steven did all the work.
But after those movies, I mean, he got a lot of acclaim to fame with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Poltergeist kind of put him up into the upper echelon. After that, he got a 3-picture deal with Cannon Films, and he did Lifeforce, Invaders from Mars, which I own and haven't seen, story of my life, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. Other than that,
hey,
I mean,
I don't like Part 2 really, so we can get into that. But
Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we'll talk about that on another date.
Hey, but he also went
Happy to do it.
He also went on to do a top-notch horror movie called The Mangler. Did anybody remember that one?
I have not seen The Mangler.
Never seen it.
He did the Salem's Lot TV miniseries.
I started that last year and didn't finish it.
I want to see that. I have it and haven't watched it. I haven't.
But the number one thing that really Tobe Hooper is remembered for is he directed the Billy Idol music video for Dancing with Myself.
Yeah, that's what he's known for.
Not bringing one of the biggest horror icons to the screen, Now that nobody remembers him for that.
It's funny you bring up Billy Idol because he was actually approached for the lead vampire role in this movie. Did you guys know that?
Oh boy, I did not know that.
I did not know. No, I did not.
I'm going to have a hard time defending this thing if that's what you're bringing.
I mean, could you imagine seeing Billy Idol walking around nude instead of the girl in this? I mean, that would be...
Wait. You're saying the lead instead of the girl? No, certainly not. He would have been one of the other guys.
Let's see here.
There's no way the intention is clear with this film.
In February 1984, Billy Idol had said to have been offered a lead role as a vampire by Hooper, which he directed because he met him when he was directing Dancing with Myself, but turned it down due to touring commitments.
I still think in the wording lead role, you could still think he would be one of the male, quote unquote, male aliens.
You can think what you want there, Eric.
Dude, this movie is too much about sex and too much about
boobs.
Too much about men being unable to control their urges. Like, to make Billy Idol the lead alien is not.
Are you saying men couldn't control their urges around Billy Idol?
It would be an interesting movie, maybe a more interesting movie.
Back in the
watching
80s,
a bunch of straight dudes lose their shit over a Billy Idol alien, but
he wouldn't be dancing with himself anymore. It'd be a white wedding, if you know what I'm talking about.
Oh no! Oh
he
no!
Went there.
And that'll be it for tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. But the one good thing is, at least in this movie, we know Josh saw pubes. We know he saw pubes in this one. So that was taken care of.
The pubometer went off the charts.
Well, it was nicely trimmed for her, but the guys, I saw they're a little bushy down there. So.
All right. Well, this was released in June of 1980. That's not right.
1985.
1985. See, I can't even do research right. This thing had a budget of $25 million with a box office of a whopping $11.6 million.
Oh, no.
Didn't even make half of its budget back. I can understand why. This was released amongst the likes of these classic horror films: Return of the Living Dead, which this is ripping off; The Stuff, which this is ripping off; Day of the Dead, which this is ripping off.
Oh, no.
Fright Night, which this is ripping off. And Demons.
It's a vampire-ish movie. That's it.
Demons, which I haven't seen, but I could probably assume that it ripped something off of it.
Well, I can see some demons here, but again, these movies all came out the same year. You can't, they were all in production at the same time.
Yeah.
Maybe they all ripped off Lifeforce. Why am I defending this movie? I don't know. I didn't like it that much.
Not a clue.
But like Josh said when he brought us in for this evening, is the original title for the movie was the Space Vampires.
Yes, well, it's based on a book called The Space Vampires, right?
Yes.
Is that right?
And the original plan was for this movie to go forward being called The Space Vampires, but apparently the bigwigs at Canon was like, oh, that sounds too much like a B horror movie. We want to give this thing something blockbuster status, so they changed it to Lifeforce.
I have a theory that it would make more money if it was called The Space Vampires.
I think it would have.
I read some things while doing the research for this that people said at their 9 or 10-year-old selves, or maybe 12-year-old, they would have been more inept to go and rent this movie if it said The Space Vampires on the cover of the VHS instead of Lifeforce.
I can only, like, Lifeforce does not at all, and the box art, frankly, even though it's a little weird.
Yeah.
It does not communicate how insane this movie is.
Right.
And if people knew how crazy this movie is, good or not, people like watching something crazy, and this shit is crazy.
Well, from what I understand, this does have a underground cult following.
Oh, yeah.
I did not see this as a kid. I actually picked this up when Scream Factory released the special edition years ago, and that was the first time I watched it, was when I picked up the Blu-ray. Jason, did you see this when you were younger?
I saw it as a teenager, probably like 15, 16 years old, when I started realizing I wanted to watch these movies that directors of other movies I like. I mean, because obviously Toby had done Poltergeist.
No, 15, 16 years old. I know why you watched this fucking movie,
dude.
sir.
you gotta have something in the spank bank. You know what I'm saying? But
Good Lord.
hey, he's talking about white weddings, and
Bleep
I say
this
spank
man.
bank. Really?
Editor, bleep this man. He is a dirty boy.
No, it really is. Like, you get into it, and of course, yeah, you hear from your buddies, dude, this movie is like total like nudity through the whole movie, which it pretty much is. But the thing is like, I mean, I knew that Toby Hooper had done Poltergeist and, of course, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I was like, well, I love those movies. Let's check this. And there's a reason I don't think I ever finished the movie. And I don't think I ever went back to it, because when Eric put this up to let's watch it, I'm like, I've seen this movie, but there's a reason that I don't think I remember it. And I think I figured that out in the first 10 minutes, why I never really finished this movie.
What was it?
Because it's the first 10 minutes of the movie. It's all you need to see. And we're going to talk about that.
But what made you turn it off? We're talking about the nakedness? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I know.
Oh no, that's what kept him watching
what kept
it.
me watching it. But I mean, literally,
I think that the beginning is amazing. Like those sets, the space sets, it reminded me of like, dude,
Okay.
get your finger off the. All right. Listen, those sets and some of that shit reminded me of. We just watched Superman. We just watched Superman.
It's so funny, dude, because I wrote down in my stuff is like the cinematography has a very Superman 78 feel here.
Yeah, man. In a good way, I think. I mean, there's some. I mean, you want to talk about that budget and where did it go? It went to some of these space sets.
No, it went to the amounts of cocaine that everybody was doing while making this movie.
It went to these space sets and it went to the Outbreaks stuff later, which is awesome. Also, I'll say. We'll get there.
Well, I will tell you where a majority of the budget went for this. I mean, you've got Toby Hooper, who was coming off Poltergeist, so I mean, he got a paycheck on this. God, yeah. You had Dan O'Bannon wrote the screenplay with Don Jacoby. Dan O'Bannon, who's famous for writing Aliens and working with Carpenter early in his career, which the beginning of this movie really reminds me of Dark Star. I don't know if you guys have seen Dark Star. It's Carpenter's first movie. It's like a student film.
Actually.
But this has a lot of the feel of Dark Star. Also, I mean, you've got Cannon Films was known for forking out a bunch of money for movies at this time. That's why they went bankrupt, quite frankly. But I mean, you had a lot of big names attached behind the camera on this. Now, in front of the camera, not so much.
No,
but
not at all.
I can absolutely agree with you, Eric. This looks like Superman 78, and it also feels a lot like Alien in the beginning, in my opinion.
I like the space stuff.
I will say, going into this, the space stuff is the most... it's what I'm drawn to the most, and kind of the mystery behind all of that.
This stuff is like they're entering an organism, and like you're seeing as they float through, you realize they're like microscopic organisms going through this much larger life being. This stuff is cool.
All right, we're talking about movies that ripped off. Just what you just said, because I actually had this in my note. Man, Eric is referring to mine and Josh's notes that he doesn't even know what we wrote. It is so much Fantastic Voyage 1966.
Well, see, I can't compare. I have not seen Fantastic Voyage.
Well, whatever it is, it came out a long time ago.
Obviously, that's a concept that can go back. I mean, but I mean, it looks great. I think that all that stuff is some of my favorite stuff in the movie, honestly. And I'll admit, this movie, it's not like I'm saying this is a 5-star film or anything, but I can tell you guys are about to shit on it. So I'm going to play.
You ready?
I'm going to play the side of defense. I do definitely have my issues with this movie, but I'm going to go ahead and take the positive side on this because it'll be fun.
Well, I didn't write a ton of notes for this one. I watched it in 2 sittings. Again, I'd watched it one time before. It didn't leave that big of an impression on me, but watching it this time, it was very difficult to get through. But yes, the space stuff I do find intriguing, and I'm watching it and I'm liking where that's going. But as soon as that is over and we get to Earth, I am completely devoid of any kind of it just goes completely downhill from there, in my opinion.
There is a good lull in the middle of the film.
In the middle, it's about 15 minutes in through the end of the movie. But no, I mean, honestly, truly, it probably would have been a better film if they would have just stayed in space. I think it would have been a better movie.
And I think what hurt them in that regard and why they probably didn't, I mean, it's based on a novel. I think the novel probably goes to Earth at some point in it, but which I don't know. I haven't read that. But you also have a lot of movies that were taking place in space, Aliens for one, and just like they probably wanted to change up where they were going to be within this. Yeah. So naturally go from space to Earth. It is very mysterious to see these people in these vacuum chambers. One very attractive young lady, two other, I would say, moderately attractive men.
Say it. They're attractive.
They're attractive.
The men are just as attractive, Josh.
Come on.
Well, one of them is very attractive chiseled. Because he is Mick Jagger's brother.
Yeah. I'm about to say.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm about to say the one that was Jack. It was what's his name? Chris or something? Yeah, Chris. Yeah, Chris Jagger. Yeah. It was his little brother.
Cool. I wanted to say also, before we get too far, I like the look of the space shuttle with the big like solar wings outside of it.
Yeah.
Some of the design stuff was interesting. Like I've not seen anything really like
There's
that.
where the majority of the budget went right there. So
I like the idea that it's in Halley's Comet. So you know, I mean, you can understand their decision even better than Alien, because in Alien, they're like, oh, we shouldn't break quarantine. Yeah, let's go check it out. This place is like, you can't, like, we're here for this. If we don't go into this thing, we have to wait. We won't be able to do it. We'll be dead before this thing comes back. So I kind of like that.
You know what would have made this movie better?
This movie's better than Alien.
Oh, no. You're fired. Cut it off. We're done.
That's like my favorite movie. I'm not saying that honestly.
But Josh,
that's why I laughed so hard.
Okay, we're talking about a comet going in space, not too far from Earth. That's why we're checking this comet out and everything. What would have made it better is they got back to Earth. The vampires were killing them while motorized vehicles were killing people also.
Is this a reference
to Maximum Overdrive? Again, another
I knew
one.
It. This guy loves Maximum Overdrive. Why doesn't he get a soundboard bash?
Because you said Alien. Huh? This movie is better than Alien, dude. No, Josh, I don't get one for that.
No, it's not. It's not.
You give me another noise, but when that's going to trump anything when you say this movie was better than Alien. But this, like, even like you said, I mean, most alien movies we see, they're all like, oh, look, we found this thing. Hey, let's find these people floating in space. Let's just take them back to our ship. Who cares about infectious disease or getting taken over or eaten by green people? You know what I'm saying?
You're right. I mean, in the whole Alien series, the whole goal is to keep that alien from getting to Earth. I mean, which I'll say is kind of interesting that we get to Earth here and we get to see what happens when something that can really be like an outbreak. I think some of the zombie stuff at the end is some of the best zombie stuff I've seen. I will put that, some of those outbreak scenes through the city
Hit the button.
Look legit.
Hit a button, Josh. Hit a button.
No. Don't hit the button.
I will say, yes, I'm agreeing with Eric on a lot of things here where I'm trying to say, like the space stuff and then going to Earth. Okay, that's where I'm probably going to end up stopping, to be honest with you. But getting to Earth, yes. But the problem is Earth is a complete wet noodle. Like everything that happens while they're on Earth is completely like devoid of any emotion, any sense of urgency. Even though there's this zombie outbreak, like everybody's moving at a snail's pace. And I think what's really ultimately hurting this movie for me is the actors, because all the acting here is god awful.
The best actor you have is not even that great. I mean, we do get to see young Patrick Stewart later in the movie, so that was kind of cool.
And I have to say, even Patrick Stewart couldn't save this movie for me. His acting is so over the top in this that I'm like, oh my God, like what is it about this movie that is going to save it for me? And unfortunately, nothing did. Like
Peter Firth couldn't save it for you?
No. And I'll tell you who definitely didn't save it for me, and that was Steve Railsback.
Yeah.
Okay, that one I will not argue with you. The essentially our main character is bad.
Oh,
a turd could act better than this guy, dude. Like,
like I said, I totally forgot about the majority of this movie from watching it as a teenager. But as soon as I saw him, the only other thing I really remember him doing are 2 films. And he did the Ed Gein movie, which that's actually a pretty good serial killer movie where he portrays Ed Gein. He did good in that.
6 Degrees of Separation, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
And he was in Barbed Wire. He was the SS officer head guy. That's really about
Barbed Wire.
Pam Anderson, that's it.
Oh, this guy is talking about Barbed Wire. Tell me I'm wrong about this movie. I've never seen
that movie is better than this movie.
I don't know. I could probably join Eric's team on that one because Barbed Wire is awful.
They're both horrible. I would guarantee you that.
I mean, Barbed Wire is awful in a good way, though. This one, I just, for some reason, I am not finding any kind of redeeming factors in Lifeforce. I'm putting my cards on the table early here, but watching this movie was a chore, and it's because I can't find anything to attach myself to within the story here. Even trying to look at the set pieces or the makeup effects, it all just reminds me of other movies. There's a particular scene of the body that has been drained of its life force or whatever, looks exactly like the body from Return of the Living Dead.
Got it in my notes, dude. Exactly.
Okay, fine. Maybe that's what a body looks like when it's been drained of its life force. I mean, I think some of the effects stuff in this is, okay. We've got rotoscoping, and we've got some dolls that are, their life force has been stretched out. So they're super skinny. They can't be played by a person in makeup, that kind of stuff. I don't mind that stuff. I mean, yeah, it looks dated, but it's 85.
Okay.
I think some of that stuff stands up.
All right. Frankly. This is where I did some extra stuff because I knew Eric was going to say that about 1985. All right. This movie with this special effects and over the top, whatever.
Hey, I know Alien 79 is better effects than this. So
I did my homework. We're gonna throw some more out there. $25 million, and we get the guy that stands up and he's all sucked. And like you said, looks like Return of the Living Dead. That looks better. But let's say, speaking of Return of the Living Dead, who came out in 1985, the zombies and the way that movie looked, they had a $4 million budget. 4.
Yeah.
Alien 1979, they all had 11. Poltergeist 1982, that Tobe Hooper did, only had a 10.7. Star Wars The New Hope in 1977 had $11 million. All these movies came out before and look 1,000 times better.
Listen, I want to say right now that I've never been owned worse than Jason just annihilated me right now. Jason, I bow to you.
You're welcome.
Well done.
What,
that being said, I still think I wasn't bothered. I wasn't bothered by the effects. The effects were not my issue. The issue for me was mostly the lead.
Oh, that's
that dude. You said his name.
Steve Railsback.
Forgot it already. That guy is bad.
You know why? You know why you forgot his name? Because he's so he's just fucking forgettable.
He's not good.
But he did get to make out with Patrick Stewart in the movie.
Yeah,
dude.
Which I'd make out with Patrick Stewart. I
believe it.
I'm not gay, but no problem.
Hey, I do.
The man is a treasure.
I do believe that it's even noted that it's Patrick Stewart's first on-screen kiss.
Really? That's interesting.
That is interesting.
Came up on my things you didn't know about Lifeforce. I was like, wow, okay. So there you go. Steve Railsback made out with Patrick Stewart before everybody else did on TV.
You don't even. I mean, you guys might have watched the director's cut or something like that, but on my version, you don't actually see them kiss. He goes down and it cuts away before he.
Wait, he goes down on him? That's a completely different version.
Gosh.
That's for shame. Is that the triple X?
No, yeah, everyone in the room's like, this is enough. We can handle all this stuff. You can put this man's life at risk. You can tell us that you have a mental connection to aliens. But if you try to kiss this man, we are over it.
Oh, God. But like I said, moving through the movie, we get everybody's back on Earth. The guard guy, the space girl wakes up. What's the doctor's name? Butkowski. I don't fucking know. It's one of those characters' names, but he sees it happen. He goes down there, and I guess he's hoping he's going to make out with the hot space girl, which she doesn't even have a name in the movie. Her name is Space Girl.
Well, let's be fair. Now, I understand I'm just saying within the film, okay? Within the film. So understand I'm not talking about the filmmakers or the script or anything. Yeah. But within the film, this alien life force is taking advantage of these men's like urges. Mm-hmm. Like this life form doesn't even have a physical form. It made a female form based on our main dude's memories.
Yeah. Colonel Carlson is his character.
Basically the most beautiful woman he could imagine.
Yeah. Because we find that out later in the film. That's exactly how she found out. She dipped in his subconscious and made herself.
Yeah. And it is kind of an interesting idea that I don't think has been like played with too much. Maybe, what's that ScarJo movie?
Under the Skin.
Under the Skin. Yeah. A similar thing where you're sort of preying on a men's sexual urges or whatever.
Now you're getting into something that I wanted to talk about is this movie, other movies at the time doing things better than this movie, but there's a lot of things in this movie that you have seen later in movies too. You bring up something like Under the Skin, kind of has the same sort of feel of that whole projection of female beauty that's going to, overtake a man. That's interesting. This also feels a lot like Event Horizon. Kind of have the same sort of like, space journey there and all this crazy shit going on now that they managed to keep that one in space. So I think there might have been some influence from this movie that has gone out through Hollywood later on after this came out. But as far as this movie goes, I'm still just finding it so hard to get through.
Here's a question. Now I kept thinking the word, I wrote it once, but I kept thinking the word procedural. Because I felt like once we hit Earth, we followed a relatively, now not super realistic, but kind of a procedural, context with the government. And it's like, okay, we got to try to seal this off. We got to, we're not totally believing what's going on yet. You got the scientist guy, you got the two guys that are investigating it. I kind of like the investigation. I think it definitely dragged in the middle of the film. I agree with you guys. It's to me like, the beginning is my favorite. And then the end is, like the climax, the third act, you might say.
Oh yeah.
The second act is a bit of a drag. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
and it did take me 2 sittings to watch this. So like, I'm not.
I got you beat. I did 3. It took me 3 times to watch this. I'm like,
I can't imagine having to sit through the commercials to get through this movie. Like I was having a hard enough time just getting through it without commercials.
I'm not going to be as hard on Eric. Then he did have to sit through this movie with commercials. I'm sorry, Eric.
Well, I mean, let's talk about some of the actors in this movie. Almost Famous.
I know that, dude.
I don't know them. I know her.
Haven't you ever heard of that guy? What's that guy who was in that movie that was out last year?
I'm sort of famous for being almost famous.
Fair warning to all the listeners out there. This is probably going to be a short Almost Famous and maybe a non-existent bigger quote section this week. The only person I wrote down for this was Patrick Stewart, and that dude's famous as shit. So, I even did my research on some of these people, and I was like, I have not seen any of these people in anything worth a shit.
Well, my Almost Famous is who we were just talking about, Frank Finlay. He was in Othello, and he got 3 different nominations for that movie for Oscars. He was
Three Musketeers, the pianist.
He was in the pianist. Yeah. He played. He was Van Helsing in the 1977 Count Dracula, The Return of the Soldier. He was nominated for a BAFTA award for that. So really and truly, he is probably the most almost famous person on here because Patrick Stewart is the most motherfucking famous of everybody on here. Everybody knows freaking Professor X and Jean-Luc Picard. So
I was gonna throw Peter Firth in there.
Yeah,
Hunt for Red October. MI5 was a long TV show that he was on. He's been in things, but there's not much going on here.
Yeah, I mean, in front of the camera, I mean, I'm gonna stand firm on this. The budget did not go to the actors in this movie. I would love to see what Patrick Stewart's paycheck was. I don't even think he was that big of an actor at that time. So, I mean, Yeah, I think the budget definitely went to the behind the scenes of this movie, which is another gripe I have about it. We'll get to later, but yeah, I mean, even with the research you did on these guys, I could not find anything that I was like, oh yeah, I've seen that guy before. Like it's like having to dig to try and find something. So I didn't really think there was a great nominee here, but
that's who I went with because I mean, like I said, I didn't recognize him or anything like that, but per the cast, he is the most notable actor in the cast at this point in time of the movie. I mean, he, like I said, they go on to the pianists and stuff like that, but I mean, man's got nominated for Academy Awards, so he's actually doing something right in his career.
Yeah. True. And I want to mention that Peter Firth is not related to Colin Firth.
I'm glad you said that. I had no idea. Because
I was curious. It crossed my mind, and I was like, oh, I wonder. And then
no, they're not.
No, not even that fun.
But is that what we're agreement on?
I think.
Yeah.
I think.
There's nothing else to say.
Can we agree that there's just nobody almost famous in this?
But well, back to what I was saying about Falada, his name, Professor Falada. I mean, like you said, the whole procedural thing. When you get Colonel Kane comes in, Falada, like you said, they're doing everything by the book. You know, they're trying to contain the situation of these supposed aliens, and it almost seems like Colonel Kane really doesn't know that they're aliens. They just know that they have somebody there. But Falada and them were talking about, you know, the guy got drained of his life force. When the girl woke up, she escapes the building. That's crazy. Butt naked, walk around the building. But like you said, these guys are just overtaken by her beauty. I mean, she is basically like Lilu from Fifth Element. Like, she's supposed to be perfect. And that's kind of what
they cannot think straight. Yeah, because they're completely overtaken.
Yeah, I mean, she's a beautiful woman walking around. I mean, it's taken from the most perfect images of Colonel Carlson's mind of what a perfect woman should be. I mean, I'm not saying that she's perfect in everybody's eyes, but I guess she is. But I mean,
so his imagination is better than his acting.
Oh, definitely.
Is what you're saying.
Way better.
But I do like
way better.
But like you said, the procedure thing, they do take it by that. You know, let's contain. Okay, let's do some medical thing. Let's do an autopsy on our guy who got his life force sucked out of him. And you obviously,
I mean, it's very they're going from place to place, collecting clues. Like, I'm not saying it's working, but I'm saying that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to put an investigation into this. But the problem is we already know what it is. So the investigation isn't entertaining for us.
Yeah, it's not helping the viewer whatsoever. Like, we
already know. So if you don't know, the investigation is interesting. But if you know already, then you're just waiting for these guys to catch up with us. We know what's happening.
Like, they brought back 3 bodies that they obviously look human, but they're walking around. Okay, we got them from,
and they're super hot,
and we got them from a spaceship in space. Okay, automatically they're fucking aliens. Their investigation over. Lock them down. Don't let them out.
Contain. Yeah. Yes, it should be contained. But as we learned from Alien 79, that doesn't always work.
I mean, it blows the windows out and just walks butt ass naked. I mean, it's funny is Professor Falada is looking at her walk away. I think he's
it's like, you can catch her, bro. Yeah. Like, get on your.
And what it is, she's met.
Let's get a fast walk going. You can catch her.
He's mesmerized by that ass. He's just staring at her ass, walking away. She don't even have to look at her. She's like staring at the ass.
You're 100% right. I mean, it is almost, it's unfair. We have all these men trying to solve this problem. This alien is playing them for fools. Because this alien is, as far as I understand, after watching the film, not any kind of gender. This thing is just an energy of some kind. Mm-hmm. So he's just, okay, we've got a male run society. This crew in the spaceship is male. I'm going to show them what they want. And we don't see a woman get, we don't see any of these male aliens trick women.
No.
In this movie, do we?
I think that
there aren't really the women. There aren't really women.
I believe, they were saying, they're like a conduit. They help pull the life force in to send to her because she is the beacon that sends it to the mothership.
Wouldn't it work better if they were all girls? Probably, right?
They'd be able to spread out and cover things a lot faster that way.
I mean, it seems to me like if you're selling this case of the alien takes on the woman form and overwhelms the man sexually, Make them all that way.
Yeah. But I do like the fact, like you said, it's supposed to be men are just totally uncontrollable around her, but yet we have a woman that she drains of her life force. So hey, I mean, she's beautiful. I mean, women would think she's beautiful too.
Doesn't kill her though, just takes her form.
No, takes her life force. Remember the first one? They found
doesn't kill her though.
No,
she's still alive.
No, she died. That's different. That's later.
Oh, the one in the park was still alive.
Yeah. Remember, they took her in because remember you have a 2-hour window that they have to feed again or they explode into dust. So,
which that's part of the procedural that I enjoy is where they start to figure that out. When they go to that one and they're observing it and it explodes to dust, and then they go, okay, this one, 2 hours, boom, dust. Like they start to figure that out. That's part of the procedural stuff that actually works for me.
Okay, and that's where I also have a problem. We'll get to that in a minute toward the end of the movie. Go ahead, Josh.
Well, and we've already talked. I mean, I'm not going to continue. Well, yes, I am. I'm going to continue to harp on this guy's acting, but we find the rocket ship that Colonel Carlson crash landed in, or the escape pod, and then he's introduced back into the picture. Now, what we don't know so far, I mean, we've talked about, we know all this procedural stuff that's happening is boring to me because I know what's happening. I know all of this stuff that's going on where those characters don't. Where it could have gotten interesting was when you introduce Colonel Carlson back into the picture and he starts giving us the information of the psychic link. That is interesting. However, this guy's acting is so bland that I don't care. I just want him off the screen.
Go away.
So he's always kind of like freaking out, and he's just not fun to watch.
Over, like going. Right. He's taking Nicolas Cage past Nicolas Cage. He's going overacting, and I won't
argue with that, guys.
And he's not even good at doing that. That's the thing.
I did not like him. I didn't like his character. It was not interesting. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. And if they could have built something upon, if you had somebody giving me a better performance upon building upon that psychic link to the female vampire and all of that, I probably could have really gotten into this, but it's just not working for me here. This movie is another case where I think a remake could help. We've got all these, we've talked about this on the show before, where you've got all these companies remaking movies that don't need to be remade. Like the conversation in Hollywood really needs to start revolving around what did we do that didn't work and how can we make it work? And you've got great examples of stuff like this out there. There's a good premise here. You get a good actor or get good actors. I mean, unfortunately, we had a good crew behind the camera on this, but ultimately that didn't help this. So this movie is prime candidate for remake. However, I just mentioned that movies have kind of taken some of the same premises from this.
I mean, you've got under the skin already.
Right.
But I see what you're saying. I won't argue about that character. And I think that there's a lot of like telling and not showing in this middle part. You've got these like long monologues from Carlson.
Yeah.
Just telling us all this stuff, and there's really no reason why he knows it. He just says he knows it, and we just have to go, okay, I guess that's right. That's literally just like an info dump that happens quite a bit with him. And he's not likable or interesting, and he has no real arc either. So I mean, no one has an arc in this movie. I'm defending it, because I had fun with it. I had fun with some of the ideas in it. But yeah, the performances are definitely bad. I won't argue with that. And the character, there's really no character work happening here. Nobody is learning anything, or, it's all just stuff is happening and we're here while it happens. And
honestly, the best performance in this movie, I'm not saying it because she walks around in her birthday suit the entire movie, is the girl who plays the space girl. Like, I have no problem believing that she is an alien that is there to overtake
I'm going to continue to disagree with you tonight because it's fun for me. But also, she's not really acting. Her job is to just keep a straight face for essentially the entire film. I think the best actor in this film is Patrick Stewart, even though he's hamming it up. But at least he pretends to be unknowing. He pretends to be one thing, then he goes cuckoo bananas. this whole movie's shit.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm trying so hard.
dude, you are grasping at
Thank
the
you.
short
Thank you.
curlies here. You are grasping
doing my
for
best.
this. And it ain't working, buddy. Sorry.
No, I'll tell you this. Performances, character stuff is really not here at all. I like that, dude, for real, that those opening space scenes and some of those scenes where there's some composite stuff. There's some stuff where they're just like floating from strings or whatever, cables.
Oh yeah, you totally know that.
Some of that stuff is really interesting looking. Like I was watching this and I was thinking to myself, how does nobody know this movie exists? Like whether it's good or bad, like this movie seems forgotten unless you're some like sci-fi horror fan on Twitter saying you like it. Like most people probably don't know this.
Oh yeah,
movie,
there is definitely,
right?
like Josh mentioned, there is a huge underground following for this kind of movie and other.
Sure.
But,
I just mean outside of that. I mean,
normal people do not know about the movie Lifeforce.
I've never heard of this until recently. And I mean, yeah, that famous image that if you Google it, is the first thing you see, the lightning going from the guy's mouth to the doctor's mouth, where he's
right.
That stuff's cool, man. Like I was vibing on that stuff. The story was boring and,
well, I thought it was funny. Like
there were some cool ideas is all I'm saying.
Like you're talking about like, stealing stuff. I thought like the whole blue life forces floating around was very poltergeist looking. Think about it.
Sure.
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah.
I mean, lightning,
all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
okay. But we like poltergeist.
Oh, I love
right?
poltergeist. Yeah.
Sure.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's okay.
I didn't watch it till I was all grown up.
If Jenny were here, she would have smacked the shit out of me because that's like her favorite horror movie of all time.
But I mean, yeah, and like you were going back to the character acting, like the whole the Falata guy, I actually dug his character for the standpoint he reminded me, because I mean, he's from the old school days. He was very much the Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee type feel, like he is the Van Helsing here of our space vampire movie, because he's doing the research and he figures out that this sword made of certain kind of wrought iron steel through the heart, not his heart, but 2 inches below the heart into their life force center will kill the
That was
vampire.
a little convoluted. Yes.
And I'm like, but it was kind of cool because it was a throwback to the Gothic horror days.
Right. But why did he have that? Why did he have that? He's a scientist. Why would he have this ancient blade?
Exactly. Again,
Thank you.
Nobody says anything about where he got this freaking Conan looking fucking sword out of nowhere.
It's just like they were like, we need something to get this movie going. Hey, let me pull this sword out of my ass real quick. It comes from out of nowhere.
No,
and
totally agree.
I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now?
Well, like you said, like he's sitting there, but they had mentioned earlier he had done these studies into life after death and the life force of people. That's the time they dropped the name of the movie, like the first time. And they were talking about that. And the one guard comes in, which is just a reanimated male vampire. And then he finds out that, wow, this thing that I had laying around in my office for no reason killed it. And it happens to look like a Gothic sword that they would use in, the original Dracula movie.
Yeah, he just happened to have this ancient weapon in
just
his
sitting around
lab for no reason. He didn't do research into some early visit of blah, blah, blah. Although they do later say, which this might mean some kind of cutscene or something, because they do later say that, and actually he says it. He says that the lore of vampires might have come from this alien race visiting Earth before.
Yeah, that's where I was about to go with that.
And that stuff is kind of interesting, injecting like real lore, but of course it's a dropped line in the film and a weapon, and that's it. Like we don't, for all the time we spend trying to figure this out, they could have given us 3 minutes of the doctor in the library looking up something, or, they blah, 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 blah. Oh, let me look at this, da, 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 and kind of figuring it out. We could have gotten 3 minutes of scenes and everything, all the connective tissue would have worked much better.
I like how they try to get away from the real vampire story. It's a wooden stake through the heart, but no, it has to be a certain kind of metal a few inches below the heart in their
have you seen
Force
Blade?
Center. You know what I'm saying? But
you've seen the movie Blade, because it's not wood, it's silver.
Well,
and
you know,
they all have their own thing of what kills vampires. We know that.
Yeah, I know. I'm
but
just saying.
It's like we're doing space vampires, so our space vampires have to be killed in a different way. Let's think real quick. Let's just make it where they stab them below the heart with this piece of metal instead of a wooden stake. Okay, let's go with it. Let's do some more lines of coke and get back to shooting. We're good.
I agree that the lower the heart, because this thing took a physical form based on human life, so it should just be the heart.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Right? Yeah.
I tend to really enjoy when the movie is smart enough to subvert my expectations of where they're going with something, especially like with vampires. Some of my favorite vampire movies are the ones that play with the lore of vampirism just a little bit. You know, you've got your basic stuff there, but like you've got Who Let the Right One. God damn, I can't even say the name of the movie right. Let the Right One In, who maybe doesn't change things very much, but they show you something that I had never seen in vampire movies before, which is what happens if a vampire enters without being invited. I like the idea of seeing those kind of things on screen. You've also got 30 Days of Night, which they play with the lore of vampires really well. And that's one of the aspects of that movie that I really like is vampires have to kill everyone in that town to make sure people believe that vampires are lore.
Yeah, they don't want them to know that they actually exist.
Right.
Near dark.
It's
used near dark too. I mean, it's a different vampire lore. They don't have the big, huge, pointy teeth or nothing like that, or turn into bats. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's why when I hear the argument, we've seen this stuff in other movies, I will sometimes buck it, because it's like, okay, yeah, but you know, you might have a vampire, but you're kind of playing with the vampire idea and you're expanding on it, and not all of it works, but there's some interesting ideas here, I think.
I don't really find the ideas here all that interesting. I just think they were grasping at straws, and the ones they pulled are not that interesting to me. Let's go ahead and get into a bigger quote, because that's going to go fast.
You're going to need a bigger quote.
Jason, we hit us with the tagline.
Okay, I actually found two.
Uh-oh. This ought to be interesting.
Okay, you want to do the long one or the short one first?
Let's do the long one.
All right. In outer space, they unleashed a force more evil than the world had ever imagined.
Too long.
Dude,
Terrible.
That's been like every movie here lately. They write a paragraph for a tagline. And then I think it's the one that's on the movie poster that Eric was talking about. In the blink of an eye, the terror begins.
Yes, that is the poster one. Which well, it sounds cool, but it is not at all descriptive of the film.
Bingo.
Exactly.
I mean, in the blink of an eye, the terror begins. What's this movie about?
Exactly.
I have no clue.
In the blink,
we don't even really on the poster. They have a giant eyeball, you know, that's the same size as Earth on that box art. But in the movie, I don't feel like eyes are a focal point.
Oh no, it is. It's her eyes.
We do see her eyes, but I don't feel like it's like a theme or anything.
I think it's what.
Did you get that?
I think that's kind of what they're going for. Is like the blink of her eye. She takes you over and takes your life force. Because you do, like, they keep zooming in on her eyes, and one time they zoom in her eyes when she's, I think, on the altar, and she's got spiral contacts in.
Yeah.
Oh, there is that. I do like the spiral contacts.
Yeah, those are cool.
I'm totally going comic book with me. I was like, is she taken over by Null? I don't know, from the Venom run, because that's what everybody does. Is they have the thing on their head. Venom's taken over by Null. You get the little twisty thing. Or is it Saw?
Does anybody have any quotes from this movie? Because I don't.
Oh, hold on.
I do.
Let me see.
You crazy?
I have one. Let me see if I can find it. Go ahead, Eric. Or you might take mine. All right.
Well, my first one is use my body.
Okay. All right. This one.
All right.
It was a more feminine voice.
All right, this one is taken from the scene. It's like it's when Colonel Carlson. They meet up with the girl that the space girl is taking over her body. I think they call her Ellen. She's a redhead. And it's like, she's a sadomasochist. She wants me to beat it out of her. And he said, you might want to turn away. And then Colonel Kane's, well, I'm a natural voyeur. And he said,
that was an insane scene.
Down,
like, you're just like, what the fuck is going on?
He sits down. I'm waiting for him to just like gently unzip his pants. Go right ahead.
I'm happy to watch. Please carry on. Do what you need to do with this.
Wait, he's English. Let me toss off over here in the corner. Go right ahead.
Good Lord.
Wow.
That's the only one I got that was memorable.
All right. Well, I have 3. So
go right ahead.
I'll say one. One is, I think it's the guy alien.
It'll be much less terrifying if you just come to me.
I'll do just that.
And my favorite quote, and the best quote is, Carlson. Carlson.
For like
what the hell is happening right now?
For like 10 minutes of the movie, it's we're getting in stereo. We kind of harmonized there a little bit, Josh. There's a little harmony there. Yeah,
Never done that before.
let's start it.
Tell you what, man, the 80s, something else. I've been watching fucking 80s ninja movies, and there's some stuff in there that's pretty laughable too.
Canon, the company who did this, did a lot of those movies. Like
every single one of them I've watched so far.
Canon did almost. I mean, that's the thing about Canon I remember the most. They did the Missing in Action Chuck Norris movies. They did Breakin' and Breakin' 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
But yeah, I think they did American Ninja, stuff like that, dude. But yeah, that's canon for you. Oh wait, they did Josh's favorite movie too, Masters of the Universe.
Cannot wait to talk about Masters of the Universe on this show. It's gonna be so fun.
It's going to be so difficult to defend. So exhausting.
Well, I want to get now we're getting toward the end of the movie here where everybody's doing the thing. We know Carlson can talk to her. They have a mental link. He has to go to her. This is the part where where we talked earlier about the whole 2-hour thing, and then how now London is totally run over. It's like The Walking Dead is taking over London. They're all vampires. Why are none of them?
They're zombies.
Yeah, no, they're vampire zombies. Remember?
No, they're zombies. I mean, in the story, they're vampires, but
they're vampire zombie Bigfoot creatures. Yeah. Let's just throw everything we can at them.
Back to the 2-hour thing. Why are these people not exploding after 2 hours?
Well, because they keep spreading.
Yeah, but I don't care.
They're not isolated like the other.
But after 2 hours, they're gonna blow up. So.
Only if they don't feed.
I guess so.
If they don't feed for 2 hours. But London on fire. You got Kane running through the streets.
He could win a gold medal for the Olympics with that, dude.
Yeah, I mean, obviously
this scene goes on entirely too long.
It does, but so many extras, so many zombies. The scale of it, the scale of the courthouse, or what is it? It's the observatory, right? All the bodies on the ground, like him running from all these extras, all these zombies. I mean, I was enjoying the scale of this. This feels like you think of your favorite Romero zombie films. You think of other zombie films. You think of things like
28 Days Later.
Yeah, 20 Days Later,
which is in London.
Or even like Day of the Dead, which is something similar to, time-wise to this. This showed a scale of an outbreak that was pretty big. Pre-CGI, obviously, World War Z and the remake of Dawn of the Dead, stuff like that, where you get like CGI crowds of zombies.
Is it a pandemic?
But when you, yes, but when you look at these street scenes and him running, yes, is the movie as a whole great? No, but I was like, damn, this is like in the middle of a space vampire thing. This is some legit zombie work here.
Well, I mean, Jason brought it up earlier. We wanted to know where the budget went to this movie. It absolutely went to the behind the scenes set pieces and all of those.
Oh, things. Yeah. Set, makeup. The scale of some of these scenes are probably unnecessary, but it does feel like there's an outbreak in London. I mean, on a pretty big scale. A space
vampire outbreak in London. Is that the name? Yeah. That's what the name of the movie should have been.
It would have been even better if they would have had David in his werewolf form running through London at the same time, killing people. Bam.
True.
Now, Eric, you said this was your first time watch, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you not know that Professor Fallout was going to obviously experiment on himself with the vampire stuff?
Actually, I was going to ask you guys, my break in time was there, and I missed what happened to Dr. Falada. So I watched until he was having a conversation with Kane, and then it was Kane like running out of there. So I missed like 2 minutes.
Basically, he had
that scene.
experimented on himself with the DNA, and he was turning, but then takes the sword with him because we got it.
It just because it's still laying there in the body of the one that he impaled earlier. It's like, this could be useful to anybody else that's out fighting zombie. No, it's still sitting here in this fucking office in this vampire.
Well, I thought when he was saying it was like a lead steel something, I was thinking, so bullets will work maybe.
Nope.
No, they don't.
Nope.
But you can explode them. Remember, they blew up the male vampires, but they went into another body that was close to them. So,
right. I mean, all the rules are a little murky here with what they can and can't do.
Well,
the rules aren't the only thing that are murky in this movie. I mean,
all right, Josh.
How about when the blood splashes on the helicopter? They spent a pretty penny on that blood because I enjoyed that quite a bit.
I don't even remember that scene.
It's like the breakout. Oh, it's like when Carlson and Kane went to go see like the prime minister in some government building, and then they go, "Oh, there's an outbreak here," and they just noped out of that building, got back in there. They didn't warn anybody. They walked through the office, and like things are starting to go awry, and they're like, "Let's get the fuck out of here."
And the prime minister just
tell anybody.
The prime minister just comes in. He's like, "I need to speak to you in my office."
And he's back there sucking the life force out of her, like,
Yeah, and they just leave like hundreds to their deaths. To just go, we should probably get back on a helicopter and dip out of here.
The one thing I wanted to ask Josh. All right, he mentioned the quote from the male vampire who just forms himself out of the life force at the top of the stairs leading into the cathedral area. Like his body just forms, and when he goes to kill him, he turns into the full space vampire. What did you think about that? Because that to me looked a lot like Fright Night when he turns into the big winged vampire and stuff like that.
Sure. Or that movie you love. What's it called? Monster Squad. Monster Squad,
which is still way better than this by 1,000 miles. But
I will go ahead and admit, like, one reason I'm a little off on talking about this one is because I did watch a really good vampire movie before we got on here and recorded tonight, Bram Stoker's Dracula. And, the bat in that one, when he's the big bat form in that, that's some good shit.
That's some good shit. That's real good. Even when he's in wolf form, which is...
Yeah, that's a good vampire movie.
Yeah, really good. But I was just wanting to know what you thought of the way the space... I mean, we saw them frozen that they took into the spaceship, which they're like, we're going to put them in this protective net, and it's just like a cargo net from the automotive section of Walmart that they put over the top of them and drag them. But it was good to actually, because we've always seen them in their human form, we actually get to see their actual form for a split second before he explodes.
Well, I wasn't even totally sure, like, is that their actual form, or is that another form they took before they... like, was that like another alien race that looked like bats that they took the form of? Like, from the beginning, when we see the bats, I was like, are those another form that they took the form of? And those are the dead versions of those? Like, like there's dead humans. Like, I didn't know exactly. I actually have a note here after I've been defending this the whole time. I have a note that says, what exactly happens at the end? Because I'm not totally sure what happens with Carlson and Kane and the space girl.
Well, that's the thing with Carlson. Supposedly, he's one of them. And because that's what she says. You've always been one of us. You were supposed to find us and bring us to Earth because you are one of us. And then whenever...
That seems like a lie to me.
Kane throws down the freaking dagger and he stabs both of them, but they don't die. They get transported up to the mothership and everything is good.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it good? Or did he was it like Independence Day where he sent like them up to the mothership after being stabbed and it like will spread amongst the mothership? Or like, do they just die and the mothership cuts its losses and leaves? Like, is the mothership a giant dick? No. I don't know. I don't know, you guys.
It looks like the COVID-19 virus under a microscope. I don't know.
I'm ready. I'm ready to subscribe that the mothership is just a giant dick.
It's an alien dick. Well, think about it. It's got the big flappy head, and then it's got the little tendrils at the end of it. It's an alien cock.
I mean, we're obviously dealing with some sexual themes here. You have this long thing and it grows at the head. It feels phallic.
Right.
I can't help but think that. And it's very organic. There's lots of like weird, like, you know, like organic sexual stuff going on in this movie.
Another thing that this movie reminds me of, the ship reminds me of Sunshine, when they got to do the thing in front of the ship to block the sun and stuff. Kind of
what you mean to say is that Danny Boyle ripped off Toby Hooper. Is that what you mean to say?
I mean, we're talking 28 days later. We're talking Sunshine. I mean, everybody's pulling from Lifeforce.
We have 30
here.
days later in this movie.
Oh,
yes.
I wanted to point out we have 30 days later.
Because remember, they go down. It says 30 days later.
Well, Danny Boyle didn't rip it off. He went 2 days earlier.
Yeah, he changed it.
But you're talking about, it's just all this, you know, thing about sexuality. And it's funny, during my digging, I found a headline that somebody reviewed this movie. It says, it's the horniest bad sci-fi movie ever made.
That's fair. That's fair. I also want to say, I have a note here, so I have to get it out. But Carlson and Space Girl, okay? Like, the whole point of this movie is this weird sexual lust going on. I mean, like, we've got a big penis ship, naked lady, right? But when they make out, it is not like this is the most awkward making out I've seen since I watched.
I'm telling you, dude,
Abduction with Taylor Lautner.
I'm telling you, dude, making out scenes in the 80s are so bad. Like, they're not. It's like they were afraid to really passionately kiss each other.
There is no chemistry, considering she is supposed to be the woman of his dreams, this master seductress or whatever.
She's a succubus.
And and when they just like a vampire, right? And when they are like making out here, this seems like the most awkward like mouth touching I've ever seen. It doesn't
mouth touching. That's the best way to describe it,
dude. It's like two teenagers on prom night. They have no fucking clue. Yeah. They're just like, oh no, I'm gonna kiss your neck. Oh yeah, I'm gonna kiss you over here. I don't know what to do. What are these things? What am I supposed to do with my hands? I don't know. Under here.
It's the equivalent. They just kind of put their lips together and rub their faces together. It's like there's no passion in it whatsoever.
Her eyes are open too for a lot of it. She's like,
yeah.
Well, she's crazy alien, so she's
crazy
not
hot.
We can
crazy
forgive
hot
her for
alien.
that.
We'll give her that.
Well, do you guys have anything else to say about Lifeforce before we get to the good, the bad, and the ugly?
No, not really.
Do we have a top kill? Let's do a top kill.
Okay.
Top kills.
I guess I'll go my top kill. I'll jump ahead here. I'm gonna take that main kill with the dummy guy that's already had his energy sucked off, and should I rephrase that?
Sucked off,
and the doctor when he sucks the life force out of the doctor. I'm gonna quit while I'm ahead.
He said, "Sucked off and head." We're done. Sucked off head. There you go. We got it.
Wow, what has happened tonight?
Hey, we're just a bunch of horny guys watching a half naked or a fully naked woman walk around through a movie. We can't resist.
This movie is all about lust and sex, so we're gonna go there. It's unavoidable.
Mine ties into Eric's for top kill. It's the doctor. They have him in the little cell and he's running around. And I love when he runs and he explodes through the bars of the cell and splatters dust all over everybody.
I forgot about that until you just said it.
That was probably the best explosion of the exploding.
Some more great effects on this budget, y'all.
That's where it went.
Boom.
You know, they spent it on the charcoal that they got down at the Walmart and burned up while they were barbecuing. That's where most of the budget went to, food and cocaine. So, get the munchies from everything. But what do you got, Josh?
I do not have a top kill. There's nothing in this movie was memorable enough for me to write it down.
Did it kill your love for movies?
Shut up.
The effects
Josh,
in this movie, like I would say the guy who had the life force sucked out of him, but I'm just thinking about the zombie in Return of the Living Dead. So I don't know, guys. Like, this was a tough watch for me. Like,
go ahead. But I'm like, Josh, did you not, when I first saw that again, because like I said, I totally forgot about this movie. When I saw that, all I could hear in my head was, "Get the screwdriver out of my head."
Let's get to the good, the bad, and the ugly of Lifeforce.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
Can I go first?
What? Why?
We were waiting on Eric.
Sorry. I probably. All right.
He's bringing over his trademark sound from the normal show.
I was late on that.
Go for it, Jason.
Go.
Go ahead, Jason, please. Sorry.
My good. Exactly.
Sorry.
I like it.
Do continue, please. I'm very sorry. I'll stop. I honestly. No, I will.
No. My good is when the credits started rolling. I thought it was great at that point, and I felt relief.
Wow.
My bad.
Rude.
I'm sorry for the people who love this movie, and I'm a big time B movie, C movie fan. There are some horrible movies that I love, but this movie it's hard to watch. I mean, it took me 3 times to sit down to finish this movie. The bad and the ugly can all go together. It's just not a good film. It's ruined Tobe Hooper's filmmaking career. He never made another major movie again. Everything else was like TV stuff, and that's even noted in the stuff when I was going through doing the research for that. It's noted that it was his last major motion picture that he did for big time Hollywood. And I mean, that sucks because the man brought us Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all this other stuff, and he just, after this, I mean, it kind of ruined his name. It just put a mark on his name. But that's.
I'm interested to see Invaders from Mars. I have never seen that one. I don't know anything about it other than there's probably Invaders from Mars in it.
Same, and I hope there's some space stuff in it after watching this.
They're probably from Uranus, so with a flying dick spaceship. So,
oh no.
All right, Eric, you're good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh, my good is got to be just ideas. I think this, I'll pair that with effects. So mostly they're effects ideas. Like you say, the exploding body through the bars, the scenes in space, some of the procedural stuff where they're kind of figuring it out. Some of that's fun. The rotoscoping, life force sucking, we got some rubber,
rubber baby
props.
Boogie bumpers.
We got some rubber prop people and things like that, and not all of it holds up great, but I enjoy it. It's fun. Bad, I'm gonna say is the bad is just there's just no real character anything. Mm-hmm. And so it really is all about the spectacle. I mean, this movie is one you sit down, for me at least, it's about sitting down to just watch the craziness unfold. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. The ugly is just, it's the same. It's just bad acting. And bad writing. But there's some fun stuff in here, some cool stuff that I think is worth watching.
Yeah, the good, the bad, and the ugly for me. The good, I'm gonna be that guy here, and I'm gonna say Matilda May, the space girl.
She's hot.
And not necessarily for acting chops or anything. I mean, if they needed an attractive woman to move this movie along to fulfill its story, I think they cast a very attractive woman here, and I think that's one thing it has going for it. That seems to be very, like, I'm just in it for the sexual nature of it, but I mean,
she was in The Jackal.
Never seen The Jackal.
But to taking over Josh, men and women alike would find her attractive because obviously she even made out with a woman and took her life force. So therefore, it's not just about men looking, obviously.
But I mean, if I'm trying to find something good here, I mean, that's the only thing I can really come up with at this point. And the bad, ugly, whatever you want to call it, it's kind of sad that a lot of talented people worked on this movie, and it's strange that it seems so, like, cheap and careless. You've got Tobe Hooper here, Dan O'Bannon, Alan Hume, who was the cinematographer. He worked on Return of the Jedi. You've got Henry Mancini did the score. Or no, that's another thing I want to talk about too, which is going to be my ugly. The score with Michael Kamen, James Horner was approached but did not get to do anything. But Henry Mancini did the score here. This score is awful. It is completely just like overblown and too fantastical to match this movie, in my opinion. Every time the score kicks in, I'm just like, what? Why? Like, this does not fit this movie at all. It's just like all of that kind of combined together is just sort of what my good or my bad and ugly is about this, is like, for the amount of money that was put into it, the people behind the camera, all of that, I would have expected something a bit better to come out of it. Yeah. And I was just a little let down by this one. Now, to be fair, I could probably watch this movie again next year and fucking love it. That's just...
That's Josh.
That's how I am with movies. Yeah, like I tend to...
expectations play a role. Some movies are better on a second watch.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I just wasn't in the right mood to watch it this time around. Maybe it was the fact that I had to break it up over a couple of sittings. It could be any number of things, but this time definitely wasn't feeling it. I think it made for a pretty damn good podcast, though. What do you guys think?
Yeah, we got to totally trash a movie for like over an hour. It's great.
It was fun to defend it, even though I couldn't defend it that well.
But I wanted to
did my best.
To touch on that thing. And I know Eric might.
No, you can't touch my thing.
Whoa! Who's touching whose thing here? I thought we were over this.
Bend you over it.
Oh no!
She is taking over the podcast. We're all just a bunch of horny guys now. We can't control ourselves. But you mentioned the score, that opening music, and at the end of the movie, I swear, Eric, you would probably know better than anybody. Go back and listen to it. I swear they use that music in the NFL films football things. Go back and listen to it.
Really?
It sounds like they've used this movie in the old like 80s and 90s NFL films video that they used to do.
I did watch a lot of those NFL films, so I'm curious.
Go back and listen to that opening score. Go
back to Pluto TV.
Yeah, dude, listen to it, because when it came on, I literally paused and I went, I'm not watching NFL films with Steve Sable. And I played it and I went, I have heard this before. So they either stole it from there or they stole it from here. I don't know, but go back and take a listen.
They were like, hey, we paid Henry Mancini to make this score. We might as well use it for something else because it's not in a very good movie.
Hey, you know these guys do that shit.
All the time.
Like, I'll take this and put it over
I've
here.
heard the music in Braveheart and how many other movies, I swear.
That's one thing. I mean, I love Tarantino and I'll defend him to my death. But he reuses movie themes like nobody's business. I just watched Kill Bill, the Volume 1 the other day, and he reuses a lot of stuff from old movies. So that's something that a lot of people like to debate about Tarantino.
So inspired by other stuff. Is that what you mean? Or you're saying he's using stuff from his old films?
No, he's using stuff from those old films.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's kind of his shtick, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, I mean, now I really want to hear this NFL film. I love those NFL film stuff. That shit is amazing. The Gridiron.
Because, I mean, they use different music through all those films, but I swear that I have heard that in like NFL documentary talking about the Green Bay Packers, blah, blah, blah. And you hear this music playing in the background, and I'm like, oh my God, that's it.
The frozen tundra
of Green Bay. Okay.
In a world where space vampires suck off football people.
Oh my God. That might have been for a better movie.
I don't know.
No, I got a premise for you. Space vampires come to Earth and they're only looking for football players. I find that a lot more interesting than what I watched in Lifeforce.
And Josh hates sports ball, so I mean, or he just doesn't care for us.
But I like sports ball movies, so there you go.
There you go. If they would have thrown football players in it, probably would have made some more money because people would have went to watch vampires and football players. There you go.
I will say, I know we're wrapping up, but your complaints of this remind me of Night of the Creeps in a very similar, except opposite way, where you liked Night of the Creeps, even though the effects weren't great and but it's having fun and it's doing things. I will admit Night of the Creeps is more fun than
I'm
this
having
movie,
so much more fun with Night of the Creeps than I am with Lifeforce. It's not even funny.
But there are a lot of it feels like you could put them in the same category of, whatever. Same time period, same kind of budget level, same.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
You see what I'm saying? And you got some aliens with an invasion on Earth, and you can compare them.
But what this movie needed that Night of the Creeps had, and this one didn't, is Tom Atkins.
I'll agree with you there. Make Colonel Kane Tom Atkins.
Oh,
and I'm ready to go.
It would have been a better movie instantly.
Yeah, I like that.
We could borrow from that one movie podcast. What's it called? The Rewatchables, where they're like, could this movie be better with Danny Trejo? We'll just say, would this movie be better with Tom Atkins?
There you go. Shoot, I would actually watch it better with Machete. So just throw freaking Danny Trejo in it, and Robert Rodriguez needs to direct this. It'd be better.
Make Danny Trejo the space girl, and I'm
you
can't resist that.
Old tattooed naked Mexican walking around.
No. This is what you do. You give it to Robert Rodriguez, and you give him the cast from Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, Selma Hayek.
There you go.
Selma Hayek is the space girl.
Dude. Wow. Oh, wow.
There's a vampire movie for you.
I was either gonna go with what's her name, Sofia Vergara as the
Vergara,
whatever how you pronounce. I would say make her the space girl.
That could work too.
Yeah, and you can even use her husband as the main character. What's his name? Joe Manganiello, or whatever how you pronounce his name.
Joe Manganiello.
Yeah, you can make him the main. You can do him as Colonel Carlson. It'll work out perfect.
There you go.
They can work together in a movie, make out. So
I'll take the Robert Rodriguez version over that.
I still like Selma Hayek. Well, no, Robert Rodriguez would still direct it. That would make it even better. So,
all right. Well, that's going to do it for the conversation about Lifeforce. Thank God.
Unbelievable,
Eric.
The shit you've put me through.
The shit you put us through, but
come on, man. Come on, at least that movie, like One Crazy Summer, people know that movie. It's out there. But this, when you threw this at us, I was like, oh my God. I have to watch this?
Let's put One Crazy Summer up against Lifeforce on Twitter. Let's see what happens there. I want to see that.
Okay. Well, you can ask me a year from now when I watch Lifeforce again if I like it better or worse than I did this time. And then we'll see where we can go from there.
You can ask me a year from now, and I will tell you I'm not watching that damn movie again. I'm over it.
All right, everyone. Well, if you like this podcast, please make sure you go in and give us a like and give us a rating and a review wherever you get your podcast. Until next time, this has been VHS Files Presents The Horror Section. Be kind.
Rewind. Come on, man.
You've been listening to the VHS Files Presents The Horror Section. We drop new episodes every Friday, so make sure you're subscribed and leave us a rating and a review wherever you get your podcast. Interact with us on all social media platforms at VHS Files Podcast. Email us your questions, comments, and movie suggestions at vhsfilespodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back.
If you like this movie, give us a rating 1 to 5 dick spaceships.
Yeah, I wanted to put my butthole on it.
I want to do my butthole whistling Dixie.
You don't have a fart noise loaded into there? There, I'll take care of it for you.
I give this movie 5 dick spaceships.
Is that good or bad?
I give it a half a dick, the head.
Depends on how you look at it. Maybe just 1 dick spaceship's fine.
Yeah, it gets a half a dick.
One is good, 5 is bad.
And now I've got my blooper reel.